Hi, I'm Lisa Hayden with Channel 6, Central Kentucky TV, community focus on Washington County. And with my laryngitis today, I am going to refrain from talking as much as I can, but I've got with me a wonderful representative here, Taylora Schlosser, superintendent of Marion County Schools, but actually a Washington County girl.
Right.
So not originally, but we consider you a part of our family here. And Taylora, we'd like to talk with you today about many things, but of course, in particular, about this Rae of Sunshine organization you've started. And you are, you know, what a wonderful tribute to your daughter. And of course, our condolences, Channel 6, on the death of your daughter. And if you would like to tell us how this started and why, we'd very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, when I talk about Rae of Sunshine, I'm just talking as a mom. I'm talking about Taylor's mom. And you're right, our story changed forever. Last January the 8th, we were notified late at night that our only daughter had taken her life. And I didn't believe that. There was no way. I mean, Taylor was a sophomore at the University of Kentucky. She was involved in student government. She was a CIO. She was a part of a sorority. She had an internship at iHeartRadio. She was a communications major and an art major. And if anyone knew Taylor, she had a beautiful, contagious smile. I was told so many times that, you know, that she always smiled at me. She was the reason I passed biology class. You know, she was always nice to me. She lit up a room. And so that night, after we were notified, and early that morning, my oldest son, Colton, said, you know, Mom, we have to do something. This can't be the last thing that we ever talk about in regards to Taylor. We have to start a foundation. We have to do a scholarship. We have to do something. And Lisa, I'll be honest, at that time, I could not even stand to say the word suicide, and I still don't like to say that word. But, you know, I also know that as a mother, if I and my family and our ambassadors, and you are one of those ambassadors, if we don't speak up for this stigma that is associated with mental health and the unfortunate circumstances of suicide, then there will be another family that is affected by that. In Kentucky, every 12 hours there's someone that loses their life to suicide. I learned that this summer by listening to a school psychologist at one of the conferences that we attended. And, you know, I shared with that school psychologist who has many, many years of experience. I said that was my family. We were one of those families affected by that. So about 2 months after Taylor's death, we started Rae of Sunshine. Taylor's middle name is Rae, R-A-E. And we have a nice little curly sunshine that represents Taylor and her curly blonde hair. And
she's such a beautiful young lady, Taylora.
She really was.
Inside and out.
And it's still, I mean, there's moments that a lot of times, it's still unbelievable. I still just can't imagine that she's not going to pull in the driveway or that she's not going to call. And I know that for many people that have lost loved ones, and especially your child, I mean, that's something that is just indescribable. You know, I lost my dad when I was 15, and that was tough. And I lost my mother when I was 40. I guess I'm telling everybody that I'm old, and that's okay. I'll take it. I'll take it. But, you know, when I buried Taylor, it is 1,000,000 times worse than losing your parents. It's just unbelievable. And she was my only daughter. She and I had lots of dreams and hopes. I tell people, you know, she was the kind of little girl that could wear a bow or she could climb a tree. But that's what happens when you have 3 brothers. You know, you're going to know a lot about Rocky and Rambo and all those kinds of things. You know, and my family and I, we own Mordecai's over here in Springfield, and when you walk in, you're going to see a nice little cabinet, and it has Taylor's picture in it, and it has our t-shirts. And, you know, Taylor worked at the restaurant. You know, she was a hostess. She waited tables. She babysat. She was very involved with FCCLA. She was a member of Washington County Teen Leadership. She was a very involved young lady. Helped me a lot with her younger brother, David Clay. Helped me around the house. I mean, she was a ray of sunshine.
She was a ray of sunshine, and I think that the title is so appropriate. And the thing about it is that you think someone like Taylor, who was so involved and so happy and always smiling and smart, had everything going, beautiful, wonderful personality, had everything going for her, everything. And you think, how could this be? How could this happen? And that is why I believe, you know, it's so important, Taylora, that you started this organization, because you don't know what's going on sometimes in somebody's head. Not just your own daughter, it could be anyone. And, you know, you thought she had everything going for her in the world, and you would never have thought something like this could have happened.
That's right.
So that stigma, that is why you have started this.
It is.
And tell me how this works.
Well, like I'd mentioned, we started out with just some t-shirts, and then we've added a few little items. We are a nonprofit foundation, and all of the proceeds go to keep the foundation going: website, business cards, brochures, things like that, and travel. Our big dream is to provide scholarships to folks that are actually majoring in some sort of mental health support system. I don't know if you realize this or not, but it could take anywhere between 3 to 5 weeks to get an appointment to see someone to talk to as a therapist. So that's another thing that we have found in the midst of this tragedy. But I'm very proud to announce that as of today, between myself and some other ambassadors, including my sons, we have already spoken to 7,500 people in 34 different events. We've traveled over 3,500 miles, and we have over 5,800 social media followers. And, you know, our groups have ranged anywhere between a small group of 10 to the largest group that I've spoken to has been over 1,000. This week we have an opportunity to speak with all of the counselors in one of the western regions. I've been contacted by a local high school to speak to over 1,500 children. And Lisa, what I find is every time we speak, and whether that's myself or my son or another ambassador.
So some of the other ambassadors are speaking too, Taylora?
Absolutely.
Your son, Colton?
My son, Colton, speaking. Miss Rakes here in Washington County.
Colton just started.
Colton actually graduated from Eastern Kentucky University, and is actually working in Florence, Kentucky with Fisher Homes Building. But he traveled back down to Richmond and spoke with a fraternity, and that fraternity in turn has adopted Rae of Sunshine as their charity of choice. And, you know, I've never heard his message delivered, and he's never heard mine delivered, but it's all, you know, in context of I'm the mom, he's the son. Sarah Rakes has spoke. I've actually had 2 ambassadors last week on UK's campus. They had a wellness fair, and it was titled Being Self-Care Isn't Selfish Care. And I had ambassadors that led other people on campus. They made bracelets, and while they were going through the bracelet activity, they talked about mental health and how important that was and how you had to value that. My youngest group that I've had is I did a summer school session with 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We didn't talk about suicide, but we talked about emotional regulation. And like, how do you regulate your emotions, and that it's normal to have certain kinds of emotions. But when I go present, and I've done the majority, and it's been good for me too. It gives me an excuse to show pictures of Taylor and talk about her. I kind of talk about her little life, and I talk about her legacy that she's created. And then what I do is I turn that around and I really focus in on the word smile. And we've created an acronym with that. And like you said, S is not for son, but S is for story. I mean, everybody has a story. Their story may not be as tragic as my story, but their story is important. And like smiling, just how that could impact somebody's story. So I go through the acronym and I talk about each one of those things in context of how it was developed. But then I turn that around, Lisa, and I talk to the audience about their story and how they can make things happen and how they can illuminate a room or inspire people. That they are a light, they can be a leader, and they have the opportunity to legacy. And then the last thing, that when you think about sun, and that's the energy, the E in smile. The sun gives us a lot of energy, and every single day we get to decide how we use our energy. And I do think I hope that our work that we're doing with this foundation just inspires people, because we've decided to take this hurt, which can really take a lot of your energy, and we're trying to turn that into hope. And, we're having a lot of positive responses. There's a lot of people in the world that have dealt with suicide but don't talk about it. There's a lot of people who are having some feelings that they feel like they need to talk to somebody, but maybe they're uncomfortable. But the analogy I give, if we had a knee replacement and we went to physical therapy, no one would think a second thought about that. But our brain is an organ just like our heart, just like our kidneys. And we've got to take care of our social and emotional well-being the same way we do our physical well-being, and I'm an educator, as well as our academic health. And so, we just want to take something that has been so tragic to us, and we don't want another family or other friends to ever have to lose someone so precious. I've read a lot of books to try to help with this grieving process. It'll be 9 months in November. And they talk about when you bury an older person, and no one wants to lose that, but you're burying the past. They've had an opportunity. And when I say it, it really makes cold chills on me, but when you bury a child, you're burying the future. And we just can't afford to lose any more people, to this health. This is a health issue.
It is.
It is.
And I think, as you said, Taylora, removing the stigma, that is so important, because people seem to be, if you're having depression or if you're having thoughts of suicide, you are ashamed to reach out because of that stigma. Removing that stigma, when you realize that those kinds of feelings are just as important as having an ache or a pain in your leg or wherever, that it's the same thing. Your mind is hurting. You've got to get it fixed.
Exactly.
And you have to reach out and not feel ashamed to reach out.
Exactly. One of Taylor's really close friends told me just last week, he was one of the ambassadors that helped, and we do have over 60 ambassadors that have signed up to help with this campaign. And if I can get brave enough to put it out again, I think I'll get 60 more. But I just want to make sure that that I have help, that I can also support them. But he told me that after Taylor passed away, he reached out to the University of Kentucky, and listen, the University of Kentucky's been great. But this is such a problem. It took him almost 5 weeks to get in to see someone. And when you're really hurting, if we were hurting any other way, we could get in. And so that's why I think one of the things that's going to be important is for us to let people know that it's an admirable career to help folks with their mental health, the same way as it is an admirable career to help with our physical health or all these other kinds of things. So, you know, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to give some scholarships away this spring for folks that are majoring in that. You know, we are just trying to figure out anything we can do to increase access. You know, there are Communicare's a good place. There's a lot of other places.
There's a hotline.
Yes, there is a hotline.
The suicide hotline,
Yes.
which is all you have to do is Google it and look it up, and also on the in the phone directory, which nobody uses anymore, but you can look it up, you know, on and call that hotline, and they can refer you to services. But like you do say, Taylora, it takes a long time, often.
Yes.
Unless if you say it's a crisis that you are
yes, that's different.
Suicidal.
Yes, that's different.
They will put you on, you know.
Yes, that's immediate.
Yes, at Communicare, at the mental health agency.
Right.
Or if you walk into a hospital.
Yes, absolutely. You're correct. One of the things we did, Lisa, is we have the little bracelets that has Taylor's, you know, hashtag, but on the inside of that bracelet, you can't see it, but it actually has the suicide prevention hotline on the inside of that. So there have been instances where, you know, places have bought these bracelets for the children or for the participants. So when they leave, they actually have a resource right around their hand. It's not something you can see, but if you need that, you know, it is there. And like you said, therapy, you know, it does take you a while to get in, but absolutely, if somebody has an emergency, that's one of the things I tell the kids and the young adults, you know, because this affects everybody, but if you see something, say something. You know, tell somebody, and that there's a difference between being sad and being depressed, and, you know, but Taylor is an example where, you know, but I think a lot of people look at our outside and they don't have any idea what's going on the inside. And I think that's why it's so important that if we can figure out as a society how we can turn some things around and focus more on the kindness aspect of it, to recognize it's okay to agree to disagree. We don't have to actually have the same beliefs, but that, you know, we can still smile, we can still be kind, we can still be cordial, because we don't have any idea what's going on in that person's life. Maybe things aren't the way it appears on the outside.
Excuse me. Very true, Taylora. You know, if people realize, my being a retired social worker, I know the things that people go through. And when they, you know, if you say a high school student and you are not, you know, that person is maybe kind of a bully themselves, they're probably being a bully because they're being bullied at home. You know, you find that. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons why they are not. So, like you say, just by being kind to someone often can change their attitude.
Right.
And,
absolutely.
And maybe make them reach out.
Absolutely. Just a smile.
You see that every day, Taylora.
Yes, I do.
You've been having been principal of Washington County Schools and then Marion County Schools. You see it every day. Yes. You know.
I do. And we're trying real hard. You know, we do. We have Rae of Sunshine is actually sponsoring a club at Marion County. It's called the Smile Club. And so we're sponsoring that, and we've got 20 basically ambassadors that are just working on like random acts of kindness. And for example, this Thursday, all of our students at the high school will wear a name tag with their name on it. And the objective that day is for students to introduce themselves to maybe students they don't know, so that everyone will get a handshake and a hello. And so that's going to be one of the things that the Smile Club participates in. You know, they wear their Smile Club button, and you know, we got all of those kids' T-shirts, and it says "Spreading rays of sunshine one night at a time."
Oh,
so
I
you know,
love that.
Well, we're just, again, that's the whole purpose of our foundation, is just trying to find ways to spread some rays of sunshine. And this past winter was pretty dark for us. It was pretty dark, period. It was a dreary winter. And so every time the sun would shine, it really made a positive impact. And I tell people, sometimes we've just got to make those things happen. And if we can't and we need help, then we need to tell somebody. It's okay. It's okay to say I'm sad and I think I need to talk to somebody. I do believe that this issue is on the forefront. Yes. I think there's a lot of conversations. We were fortunate to be a part of the Courier Journal's article a couple of weeks ago, and they told a lot of stories. Taylor's story did not end like some of the stories. Some of the stories were of young people who tried to take their life but did not, and I'm very thankful that they didn't. But our work is about, I don't ever want another mother to feel what I feel every single day. Every minute that I'm awake, that's what I feel. I miss Taylor, and I don't want any other mother to have to experience what I feel. And, I'm just, we're working hard to make a difference.
Well, one thing I do think would be, kids need to know that, of course, it's young people, that suicide rate is very high. It has continued to increase through the years, and I don't know what the cause is. I really don't. I know that there are problems with this social media and lashing out, and people, you hear all kinds of stories.
Right.
But having children, teens, to get the opportunity to talk with someone and to, find solutions for their problems. I know they can always go to the principal, they can always go to the school counselor, but they're so overwhelmed with responsibilities too that, do you have other suggestions as to who they might reach out to? A minister, another adult, of course their parent, or...
Right. Well, and hopefully at the school age, they have a relationship with an adult in that building. In one of our schools, we've actually done a survey, and we've asked our students, if there was something wrong, who would be your go-to person? And it's an anonymous survey. And so then we said, if that person wasn't there, who would your second go-to person be? And so we are going to our children to ask them who that go-to person is. And so, and you'd be surprised, it could be the custodian. It doesn't have to be a teacher, it doesn't have to be a principal. It's like, who is that adult? And I think as a parent or as a family member, that's the key. If I'm not around as the parent, does my child have another adult that they can go to? And I'll tell you what I shared with Dr. Capilouto, because I was, if you can say honored, I spoke at the Out of Darkness Walk on the university's campus in April. About 500 children and young adults and even old folks our age there. But Dr. Capilouto was one of the guest speakers, and so was I, and I had the opportunity to sit with him, and I said, we're administrators. We're not therapists, nor the teachers. And I said, it's our responsibility to help find them resources as well about how do you handle something when a child comes to you or those kinds of things. And so I think that administrators across this country right now are searching for how do we address this social and emotional learning. Because if I'm a content teacher, I'm a math teacher. I was fortunate to get to teach, math. But I wasn't trained to be a therapist. I was trained to be a high school math teacher. If I'm an elementary school teacher, I'm trained to be an elementary school teacher. So it's our job to help those adults that are working with kids every day, like maybe what are the signs, how do we approach this? Let's say that a kid does come in not feeling themselves. Did something go home that night, the night before? We even have a relationship with our police department that in the event that a child's has a traumatic event at home, they let our schools know. And so we meet that kid when they get off the bus, and we go ahead and kind of start with them and let them kind of process that if they need to talk to a counselor or maybe just kind of get all that out of their system. I don't think there's one answer. I think there's all kinds of answers. But I do think that it's a partnership. You know, it's like the police department, the hospitals, the administrators, the churches, anybody that we can get that can help us, that would have a relationship with a child or a family. I think that's what we have to do.
Oh, that's a good idea. We should be doing that here in Washington County.
Well, that's something easy. That's something easy to do,
Right.
And we're blessed here because we have a small community. Everybody knows everybody, and our deputies and our officers. They're like, okay, where's that child go to school? Hey, we're going to give that principal a call and let them know maybe something happened. Maybe the ambulance showed up last night. Maybe a family member had to be taken and flown out to UK and have had a heart attack. Maybe they had to get up that morning and get themselves ready. Maybe they had to get their siblings ready too. So just, I think it's just a constant being aware of who we're educating, and, just that generations change, and what our children respond to today maybe is not what you and I respond to, and just provide as much training as possible.
That's great, Taylora. Because there are signs, sometimes very subtle, and that, maybe we can pick up on that we haven't in the past. And, people don't realize, I don't think, Taylora, because in my work, and yours too, even young children have attempted or even succeeded in committing suicide at young ages.
Yes, it is.
Grade school.
Yes, it is the second leading cause of death in adolescent, and they are predicting that it will be the #1 cause of death for that age group. And adolescent is actually spreading wider, which means that adolescence doesn't start when you're a teenager. They're talking about as early as 9 and 10 years old, and then it's actually spreading. It's not 18 to 21 anymore. It's more like if you talk to a college president, it's going to be that age 24 to 26. And so it's sad to think you've got this future and these talented young people. If you spend time with kids, they just have so much to offer. But the world's very fast-paced, and it's going to be important for us to figure out how to balance this really cool technology world with our physical and our social and emotional. So it's an issue, but I really am optimistic that there's a lot of people out there that recognize it. We've had great response from Rae of Sunshine. I could speak every day, but I tell them I have a real job, and I enjoy that work as well. So I try to spread that out between myself, my son, and other ambassadors. And so I don't have any doubt that 7,500 this week. It's just every week another group. We've spoke to adults as well as children. I've spoken to a couple faculties as well, as just to remind them the why. And the other part is, if you work with children, you have some secondhand trauma yourself. Because when you see that child, you know this from being a social worker, it's traumatic for us as adults to see our children go through some of those kinds of things. So
yeah, it is.
A lot of need.
It really is.
A lot of need for some Rays of Sunshine.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping I can help more with that too in the future. And so I'll be calling on you. And Taylora, if anyone would like to be a part of this, or if they have any questions or any way they think they might be able to help, how can they contact you, or if they just want to get more information?
Right. So we are working on revamping our website, and so that should be up and running by the 1st of November, which, can you believe it, it's almost November, 8 weeks until Christmas. But that's getting worked on, but we do have a Facebook page and Instagram and an email. And if you would want to email me, that is info@raeofsunshineky.org. We also have some literature over here across the street at Mordecai's. We have pamphlets there that you can pick up and see a picture of Taylor and get some more information. We also have brochures with information at J&J, the t-shirt shop downtown in Lebanon. We are getting ready to actually even have some t-shirts and brochures down in Clay County. That's where our precious Taylor's actually buried. That's where I grew up. And so that's another spot that you can do. Our social media is very positive. We share positive pictures. We share pictures of Taylor, and I try to share pictures that no one's ever seen before. So, and you know, I'm always around. Most people already have my cell phone number. So if you don't know how to get a hold of me, there's probably somebody in your life that does. My children also are very involved, about 60 different ambassadors across the state and even in a couple of other states. And so it's a real pleasure to see so many people just step up and want to be a part of really just making the world a better place.
Your other son, besides Colton, there's...
I also have a son named Will, and then my other son is David Clay. And so they've been instrumental.
They're in high school, aren't they?
I have one that's graduated from college, another one in college, and then one in high school. So, okay. Yeah, I was that mommy that walked in with 4 kids, and people thought, oh my God, she's crazy. But I wouldn't change it for the world. You know, family's very important, and I feel very fortunate to have been a mom. I'm not real sure what I'm going to do when they leave. I think I'm just going to find one of them that'll let me tag along.
Don't worry, you'll be having grandchildren at that point, Taylora, and you'll be taking care of them. That's what I'm doing.
I sure hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
Don't worry, it'll come. So thank you very much for being here today,
Thank
Taylora.
you for inviting me. I appreciate being able to talk about Taylor's story. And if someone needs us or needs us to come speak to a young group, or they've got an idea of things we can do, you know, that's what we're here to serve. We're here to serve, and we appreciate all the support that our families received over these last 9 months. So thank you.
Channel 6 will be sharing that. Yep.
Thank you.